Hey, welcome to episode 4 of Sport Fanatics, Tuesday, June 29th, 2021. I'm Chris.
I'm J. Mike.
Today we got a slew of sports from NBA playoffs, College World Series, and a surprisingly exciting race weekend, so that's where we'll get going after this theme.
Roll it! Well, Chris, let's start off the show with what stood out to you the most this weekend in the wide world of sports, in your honest opinion.
Well, I mean, it was a pretty incredible weekend for sports. A lot of close games and even some great races. But honestly, the thing that comes off my mind first is NC State having to withdraw from the College World Series, had to forfeit their game against Vanderbilt.
Yeah, that was a real bummer, of course, with NC State right before first pitch. They announced that there is a delay of some sort, and it ends up coming out to be that some NC State players had entered COVID protocols.
And that happened right as we were recording last week on Friday.
Yeah, on Friday. That is correct. We're sitting here getting ready for a big semifinal matchup, and all of a sudden they're in a delay, and we're not sure at the moment. And the news finally breaks that NC State players had tested positive. Well, I believe it was maybe a 45-minute delay of some sort, or maybe just a tad bit under until they could figure out more details in the matter. But ends up coming out to where they only have 13 available players.
That's right, 13.
And I think 4 of them were pitchers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 9 position players and 4 pitchers. And they used 12 of those players when they lost to Vandy. So that ended up really being their elimination game. They really needed to win that game because that's probably one reason they could not play the next day. They had used those pitchers.
Yeah, and I just thought about something as you just said that, Chris, that I haven't really thought of over the weekend. If NC State pulls out that game against Vandy where they're so shorthanded, do you think that they probably would have kept Vandy in there?
That's
like, would they have eliminated Vandy? And then just moved NC State into the College World Series final. That way they get a day of rest. No, 2 days. Yeah, 2 days of rest because they would have had Saturday and Sunday off.
Right. So you're saying if they had won that game,
right? Would they have just automatically put them
in the?
Well, never mind. I take that back. They would have automatically been in there.
Yeah, because they
wow. Okay.
Yeah, they were up. They were on the winner's side of the bracket.
Yeah, that's right. My fault.
So, they would have automatically been in there. Now, the question is, where I thought you may have been going with that was, well, then what would have happened against State or Texas?
Yeah, I believe what I meant to say was, would they – yeah, that's it. My fault. Would the NCAA would really have to force themselves to keep NC State in it had they beaten Vandy.
Well, see I think
that's where I was getting at. My fault on that. Automatically they would have advanced.
Right. If they had won, they'd have automatically advanced.
But would that really have forced the NCAA to say, "Hey, look, we really need to keep them in it now," since they technically beat Vandy and knocked them out?
Well, I think they have two options at that point. They can either delay the 3-game series against.
Yeah. I mean, I thought about that too.
Now we know they would have played Mississippi State, but they didn't know that at the time. But they would have either delayed that series, or I think this is even more likely, just that it had to withdraw then.
Okay.
Because I mean, it wasn't even necessarily the NCAA. I think. Let me see. Yeah, the NCAA said the decision to rule NC State out was based on the recommendation of the championship medical team and the Douglas County Health Department there in Nebraska.
I heard something else.
Okay.
I heard something else according to reports where they told the NCAA, hey, look, that's up to y'all. Y'all make your decision.
What?
So there's some really conflicting reports out there whether what was true and what was false.
Yeah, well, I'm
which is really misleading.
Yeah, I'm seeing this from ESPN.
Okay,
so I don't know what other reports are out there.
I'm just letting you know that I heard the exact opposite. I heard that they told the NCAA that it was up to them to make their decision on it, since it was their tournament. But what I didn't like about it, Chris, is they show about 12:45 Saturday morning. I mean, early Saturday morning, just a wee bit after midnight. After midnight. I love that song, by the way. But anyway, NC State players go back to TD Ameritrade Park and gather for a group picture, it report showed. And then about 1 a.m. or a little after 1 a.m., so, I mean, very, very early in the morning, they come out with the decision that NC State is out. They're going to have to forfeit. That winner moves on to the College World Series final game against Vanderbilt. I just wish the NCAA would have given them a little bit more time. Now, you made a great point that they used 12 out of the 13 players in that game, which certainly you don't want the pitchers, that is, to, because at that point they would be very overused in that game too against Vandy. But
yeah, that decision came at, it was 2 a.m. Eastern time, so 1 a.m. our time.
Yeah, I thought it was 1 a.m.
And honestly,
or a little after 1.
I didn't know about it until the next day. I was like, well, I'm going to put on the game. And of course,
same here.
It wasn't on, so I didn't even look that morning to hear from it.
But I wish they would. I wish the NCAA would have given it a little more time, because that game wasn't supposed to start until 1 p.m. that Saturday afternoon.
Well, the problem is, once you test positive, unless you have a follow-up negative test, which I don't know if they did that or not, but once you test positive, you're out for at least a week.
Oh, they're still doing that.
I mean,
10 day.
I would assume
quarantine.
so. Yeah, I would assume that. I mean, that's pretty much still the default.
And what I also saw was that the second baseman for NC State was the first one that tested positive.
Okay, yeah, we heard from him, and then the closer, we heard about him.
And then it was told that NC State had to be retested, and then that's when they found a number of other players testing positive as well. So it's really just a unfortunate group of events, because that NC State team was playing really well. They were, of course, the Cinderella out of the group.
Yeah,
they had the most arguably the toughest road out of anybody.
And it would have been just so exciting to see a Cinderella story like that playing out in the final series.
I mean, yeah, they had a gimme regional, the Louisiana Tech regional in Ruston, Louisiana. They had a get me over there, which they're able to win that regional pretty convincingly. But then they go to the number one team in the country, and that hostile environment in Fayetteville against Arkansas, and get shellacked around in that game one 21-2 Arkansas victory over NC State. And they come right back and they pitch it really well in two very exciting one-run down to the wire ball games, in a 6-5 game 2 win and a 3-2 game 3 win over arguably the best pitcher in all of college baseball in Kevin Kopps, where top of the ninth they get that huge home run, and then they bring in the closer that you just mentioned. Mm-hmm. He comes in, shuts them down 1-2-3, sends them to Omaha, and you and I both knew that going into the College World Series, they had all the confidence in the world after beating the number one team.
And they showed it when they got there.
They did.
It was incredible.
Great pitching performances. But they started off the College World Series swinging the hot stick.
They did.
Against that Stanford team that can pitch it.
They did.
And so...
Oh, and just to... By the way, if you hear any rain or thunder, it's currently raining cats and dogs right now. But
I stepped into a poodle.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's picking up too bad though. So, but if you hear something, that's what that is. And I just looked up a little bit more to see if we had any updates on that discrepancy we were talking about. And we don't know much else. The NCAA says that it's was based on recommendation. However, the Douglas County Health Department spokesman for them, Phil Rooney, said that they did not recommend the removal, but that they would support whatever decision, like you said. So there's some conflictions there. Maybe we'll get some clarification later.
So it's definitely on the NCAA, and they're just trying to save their hide, in my honest opinion. That's what I got from that anyway.
I wouldn't put that out of the realm of possibility.
And there's also some rumors going around that Tim Corbin, the Vanderbilt head coach, was the one that, as soon as he heard about the second baseman from NC State's positive test, he was the one that told the health and safety people over the tournament that NC State needed to be retested.
Well, yeah, it says...
And so there's some rumors going around about Tim Corbin playing a major role in all of this as well.
Again,
which I know you're trying to protect your players, but you're going up against a team that you have to beat twice. And you really want to give NC State a fair shot. And I don't understand why NCAA lets them go out there with 13 men and play on Friday afternoon, but won't come back and let them play the next day. Yeah, and the decision is made so deadgum early that morning.
I mean, if we do find out this came straight from the NCAA, then
which I believe it did, then that's what I'm taking away from it.
Then I would have suggested they do it earlier, like you said.
Yes.
When as soon as they found out that many players were tested positive, because I mean, I'll be honest,
and it's certainly an advantage for Vandy right now, and we'll touch on that game from last night.
Yeah, we will. I do see here that several sources have said that the request for another round of testing came from Vanderbilt staff. It doesn't say who specifically.
Yeah. So
that is possible, but
very eye-popping.
We can criticize the timing, but that being said, with only 13 players able to go, like I would have honestly called it off earlier that day, like even before the first game. If they only had 13 players, there's no way.
Right, but yeah, that's what doesn't make sense, Chris, is you delay it for a little bit. You let them come out with 13 players. You play a full 9-inning game. Nothing more really is said after the fact that you just played that 9-inning game, and then you wait until 1 o'clock the next morning to come out with the final verdict.
Right.
It just doesn't make much sense at all. And let me tell you, as we're fixing to go into talking about Vandy and Mississippi State here in just a moment, if Vandy ends up winning their second straight national title, whether it be tonight or tomorrow, it looks really bad for college baseball. In my opinion, there is a big time dark cloud over college baseball, and it does not make the sport look good at all if Vandy wins tonight or tomorrow.
Well, when we get into that now, yeah, that gave Vandy an extra day to rest and to watch,
and able to get their ducks in a row.
They were able to watch the Mississippi State Texas game to see who they'd play.
Right, and really scout well, and get ready for that national championship series.
So instead of having to play that final game, they were able to rest and ended up beating Mississippi State last night 8-2.
Yeah, it was what you and I have harped on. Can Vandy finally find some mojo on offense? And that first inning, they found it. All of a sudden. Now, that was pretty much the bulk of what they did offensively.
Yeah, McLeod didn't even finish the inning.
And that's what's so surprising to me is he was Mississippi State's Friday night ace all season long.
Yeah, State was banking on using him to get that first win.
No doubt.
And get the advantage, of course.
Yes, and I personally thought that last night's game was going to be a pitcher's duel.
Same.
And come down to whose bullpen was better and who was going to have the clutch hitting. And so
between him and Leiter, yeah,
and when you think about that, the edge goes to Mississippi State.
Exactly.
After what we've seen in this College World Series, their bullpen has kept them in those close games just enough to get some offensive swagger going on, clutch hitting.
Well, yeah, that's what Mississippi State's mojo this whole postseason has sort of been, to just hang around, stay close enough,
and then when part of the game,
yeah, when the bullpen comes out for both teams, that's when they get clutch and pull out those wins.
Oh yeah, because as we've stated, McGarry has a no-hitter going on in the 8th inning. Next thing you know, 2-run homer makes it a 4-2 ball game all of a sudden, and it only gets worse from there. Because 2 more guys get on after the 2-run homer, and then Tanner Allen hits a 3-run homer up for him, helping State get back into that ball game. They're all of a sudden, they've got all the momentum. Virginia looked defeated, and they're able to say, hey, look, we got y'all right where we want y'all. This game is over. They bring Landon Sims out. He closes the ball game, and they go to the semifinal where you get another come from behind win in that winner take all game against Texas.
Yeah, they did that. They hung around, and
what was that, Saturday night? Yeah, Saturday night.
And then they win it in the bottom of the inning.
And I called that too. I knew if State kept it tied 3-3, then the bottom half of that inning, they were going to find a way to walk it off, and they did. Mm-hmm. They did just that. And once again, a clutch walk-off hit by a Northwest Mississippi Community College former player of theirs gets the walk-off hit for the Bulldogs.
Okay, I actually didn't know he went there.
Yeah, he went to Northwest. So, but that's what I thought it was going to be last night. And who would have thought that by the end of the first inning, that game was pretty much over and in Vandy's favor, because State.
Well, considering how
I mean, you got an uphill battle against a pitcher like Leiter on the mound for Vandy, who's going to be a top 3 pick.
That is true,
and
Leiter did a good job of settling down when he gave up that home run in the first inning. He settled down and pitched a great game.
Yeah.
Now, I still had in the back of my mind when the bullpen came out. I mean, you never know what crazy stuff Mississippi State can do with that lineup.
Right.
Their lineup has been it's been sort of. I feel like it'd be frustrating as a State fan. Yeah, because they'll go several innings not doing squat, and then they'll put up a 6 or 7 spot and completely switch a game.
But credit their pitching. Their pitching has kept them in a lot of tight knit ball games here in Omaha.
Well, and they did great last night, except for that first inning.
Yeah,
with McLeod,
but you've got to go toe to toe with a guy like Leiter, because I remember in the SEC tournament, Ole Miss gets a unbelievable start out of a reliever that they had hardly used all season long, in Tyler Myers, and he went toe to toe with Leiter. He didn't allow any runs.
And that's what it'll take
in that ball, and that's exactly what you needed out of McLeod last night. But he has really struggled in this NCAA tournament. He was bad against Notre Dame in the Super Regional, and he's just been bad here in Omaha. And you figured that this guy was going to be a first-round pick because of all the buzz that he was creating and what you were starting to see from scouts talking about him a lot. And then he just hits a hard bump in the road here in this NCAA tournament, which kind of gets me thinking, Chris, should State have just used somebody out of their bullpen last night as somewhat of a spot start to kind of to do what Ole Miss did with Tyler Myers in that SEC tournament game against Vandy, where it worked out perfect because Vandy didn't know much about
true.
Tyler Myers.
I was about to.
And so you throw their offensive strategy out the window at that point. You throw them off guard. Hey, look, we're throwing this wild card guy at you, and you don't know much about him.
That's true. I was about to say I would still go with McLeod, but I didn't think about how that worked out in that situation.
Because you're playing for your first national championship.
Yeah.
And this is a great opportunity for Mississippi State.
I still feel like I would go with, even though he's had struggles as of late, I would go with the guy who's had me the whole year and I've trusted so much, my Friday night starter, McLeod. I feel like I still would. Maybe the only other thing you could do would do what you're talking about tonight and then start him tomorrow or something.
Well, Bednar would get the start in Game 3.
Right. So, maybe you could do that.
But yeah, I think that's what Mississippi State's going to do tonight. I think they're going to roll out quite possibly a guy out of their bullpen that they feel really, really confident about. That way, that can set up Bednar versus Rocker, which is the game that we all want to see. And those two lethal first-round MLB draft picks coming up.
And it's the game
going toe-to-toe.
It's the game Vandy doesn't want to have to get to.
Yeah.
They don't want to risk that.
But there's also speculation out there about both of those starters pitching tonight, which I think we'll see one. I don't think we'll see both.
Okay.
But if it were me and Vandy is not throwing Rocker tonight, you bet your tail I'm rolling out there with a guy that Vandy doesn't know much about, a guy that I feel quite confident in, because we know after Rocker and Leiter, starting pitching for Vandy is very questionable and up in the air about whether somebody after both of those two horses can get the job done. So if you're Mississippi State and Chris Lemonis, if you don't see Rocker as the starting pitcher for tonight's game, I think you've got to roll the dice and throw somebody that Vandy hasn't seen much film on, somebody that you feel confident in. That way you can get this thing to game 3 and you can put the ball in Bednar's hands with the national championship on the line, and then you're feeling really good about yourselves if you can somehow get your offense going.
Well, and it's desperation time.
Yeah, which is the question mark right now for both teams, because we know both teams can pitch it really well, but the offenses have been inconsistent. We finally saw what Vandy could be capable of in that first inning, but credit State's bullpen for shutting them down pretty much the rest of the way, giving their offense a chance to get back in it. It's just unfortunate that you've got an uphill battle against one of the best pitchers in the country in Jack Leiter.
Right, yeah. Well, and another interesting thing from this, we both had a pick make it to the final.
We did.
I got Vandy, you got Mississippi State.
Yeah.
I'll stick with Vandy. Honestly, was feeling a little bit iffy on that coming into the series, but of course last night gave me some confidence. But
if Mississippi State would have done what I just reiterated about throwing a guy out of their bullpen as a spot start last night, I think that game could have been exactly what I envisioned and what other people envisioned last night, it being that pitcher's duel, going down to the wire where it's up to the bullpens, whose bullpen is better, and then, of course, you base it on clutch hitting. The edge goes to Mississippi State, and that's why I like Mississippi State last night. But when you put yourself in a hole like that right out of the gate against Jack Leiter, it's not looking good for you. They lose that ball game, and now the edge is starting to go back to Vandy's side because you got the number 1 overall draft pick coming up. You got him waiting in the wings.
Yeah. So how are you feeling about the series moving forward? I'll stick with Vandy.
I see this game, this game tonight going to Mississippi State. I think they find a way tonight. Game 3. Now, this is what I'm predicting, and I'm probably going to be totally wrong from a pitching standpoint. But I think that you see 2 pitchers from Vandy and State that you're not really familiar with. So it's going to be one of those games, who wants it more? And I think Mississippi State will come out more confident tonight. So I don't see us seeing either Bednar or Rocker on the mound for either team tonight. I think both coaches are saving their horses for that game 3 showdown.
Right.
Where you're walking out there and you've got the ELO song in the back of your mind. It's gonna be a showdown,
and someone's gonna be winning the championship that night if it goes to a game 3.
But I believe this is going 3. I like Mississippi State tonight because I don't think that Rocker or Bednar will be on the mound, so that makes me like Mississippi State's chances a lot better, because when it comes to hitting, I've seen more out of Mississippi State. No offense to Vanderbilt. I know y'all had a great first inning, but after that, you only mustered one more run.
Right.
And that was pretty late in the ball game.
Yeah, 7th inning.
So I like Mississippi State's bullpen way more. So why not throw one of those guys tonight and then save Bednar for that game 3? Because, of course, that gives him another day of rest. gets him ready for Game 3. And then if he has an incredible performance as we saw him do against Texas, then the national championship is yours for the taking.
Speaking of which, Texas was so close to getting both of my picks in there, but they just couldn't quite do it.
But that's what we all want to see anyway, is a Game 3 winner takes home the national championship, and you've got two of the best pitchers in the country going at it. And it's just a matter of who wants it more. That's what I want to see. That's what everyone wants to see in a Game 3 showdown. Now, whether we get that or not remains to be seen. But anyway, that's what I like moving forward in this series. But I do see this series going 3 games, going the distance. But I like Mississippi State to bounce back tonight with a spot start from a key cog out of their bullpen. I think he'll do a great job. I expect the bats to be a little bit better. And, of course, in that scenario where you're taking whose bullpen's better, you got to roll with Mississippi State.
Yeah, I feel better about their bullpen as well. But we'll keep an eye on it, and we'll see. On Friday, we'll be able to talk about who won the thing.
Yeah,
so it'll be over. It's crazy. It's already that time, but we'll know by Friday. We'll talk about the winner then. All right, so J. Mike, what sort of caught your eye this weekend?
Man, just another unfortunate injury that could quite possibly take a star player out of these NBA playoffs, and that was the injury that Atlanta Hawks young star Trae Young suffered in a game, in my opinion, that Atlanta really needed the other night.
It was a bone bruise, right?
And he steps on the ref's foot,
man,
and gets that bone bruise out of it.
It's a bad look.
It's just, very bad, because normally when I step on somebody's foot, I don't get a bone bruise. But that's just the unfortunate circumstances of these NBA playoffs with these injuries and how they have affected a number of teams. But not as much as this injury to this Atlanta Hawks team is going to determine the series all of a sudden, because Trae Young, ladies and gentlemen, we all know he's what gets everything going for the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah, he had 35 points in that game.
And that's what's crazy about it, is he still had a great game. Now that can give you optimism going forward, but you're still uncertain about how well he's going to be tonight's game, because that game 4 is tonight on TNT.
That's right.
Other than that, though, I do not like what I saw out of the rest of the Atlanta Hawks team. They're starting to look very fatigued, in my own opinion. It seems like the playoff grind has started to catch up with them to this point. And I told you, this Milwaukee Bucks team plays fairly well on both ends of the court.
Well, and we were feeling good about them anyway. We thought this series would go to them.
And we touched on this last podcast, Chris, how Chris Middleton needed to step up,
and he did.
Boy, did he!
Yeah,
he was on fire, fire.
He had 38 points.
Just incredible. And that's the guy that, if he gets going for this Milwaukee Bucks team, they're your NBA champion, folks. And also what I liked from Milwaukee, Chris, was the fact that they're finally feeding Giannis inside. Giannis is finally going to the basket and not settling for jump shots or 3-pointers, which he's not that kind of a player.
Right, and he was in doing that. He was still able to get 33 points up. So him combined with Middleton,
and Drew Holiday. Let's not forget Drew Holiday, who's been huge in these playoffs. Drew Holiday plays very well too. So that three-headed monster, they keep playing like that, man. They're really going to force my hand to picking them to win it all.
Yeah, they're looking. I can feel you on that.
But they have to continue. They have to continue doing that, Chris.
Yeah.
We all know. We all know they play defense.
Yes, that's why
Giannis is on the NBA first team all defensive.
Yeah,
for a reason.
If they keep this consistency and playing as well as a group as they are, I feel you.
Yeah,
we'll see how the rest of this series go, but you have to be feeling pretty good.
But yeah, let Holiday and Middleton be the ones that throw up shots, because that's their game. But Giannis, you keep attacking the paint. Go inside, man, because Atlanta is small inside.
Well, and this was even with Holiday having a sort of a bad day shooting wise. He did have 12 assists.
Yeah,
but he didn't have a great day shooting. He was 2 for 11. So if he can get hot as well,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If all three of them are playing at a high level, they're really going to force my hand to pick them to win it all.
So
even though I like that Phoenix Suns team, and we're fixing to touch on the game last night, but
well, yeah, I guess we can go ahead and finish this up. I mean, I'm feeling good about the Bucks moving forward in this series still.
Me too. I think they win the next two.
Yeah.
And get this thing over with, and they get ready to compete for their first world championship since 1971.
Right, because we were talking about how Atlanta was such a scrappy and sort of a hard-fighting team, but it looks like it's slowing down a bit. And
no doubt,
Milwaukee's taking care of business.
You're starting to see the fatigue that Atlanta is suffering from that last series against Philadelphia, where it went the distance. It went 7 games. You're starting to see that fatigue now, and this is not the time to be fatiguing.
And also
against the Milwaukee Bucks team that, in my honest opinion, had it not been for the injuries to Harden and Kyrie Irving, Brooklyn would have swept the Hawks in this series and would have ended up winning it all. But talking about going back from NC State with that monumental upset over Arkansas and how that carried over to the College World Series, momentum, feeling great about yourself, playing at a high level, everything's clicking together. When Milwaukee ousted Brooklyn out of the playoffs, they're like, this is our conference.
Yeah, and also Milwaukee isn't a team that has trouble closing out games and series like
Philadelphia.
76ers.
Yeah, we're talking to you, Doc Rivers.
Yeah, so I'm with you. I'm feeling really good about the Bucks.
Milwaukee wins the next 2, wins this series,
I could
gets it out of the way.
That. I'm not sure if it.
I don't like what I saw the other night, Chris.
Yeah,
because Trae Young was doing everything under the sun, and he gets that unfortunate injury where he's questionable for tonight. And if he don't play, Chris, you're looking at a blowout like what we saw from Game 2 of this series.
Yeah, that was.
But it's definitely not good, him not being at 100% now, and the rest of the team looks fatigued.
Yeah, pretty mediocre.
But I don't like what I saw from Atlanta the other night, and it's it's definitely not looking good going forward against this Bucks team that, as you just stated, gets it done.
Yeah,
they do not. They don't blow leads.
Yeah, they're going to have to turn it around like the Clippers have turned it around last night.
Yeah,
they
cardiac Clippers.
Yeah,
they're back, folks. We're back.
They pretty much controlled that game. There was a brief moment where the Suns pulled up close, and it looked like it was about to be a game, but the Clippers closed it.
And as you just stated, the will to win for this Clippers team, we could very well see this series going 7 now all of a sudden, because what you just said, Chris, the Suns, every time they scratched and clawed their way back into the game last night, the Clippers answered every single time.
Yeah, they did. The Clippers
were ready to play. Outstanding job coaching by Ty Lue last night.
Incredible performance from Paul George.
Ty Lue is now 10-2 all time when facing elimination, and he's 3-0 so far in this 2021 NBA playoffs. Now, this same man, Ty Lue, overcame a 3-1 deficit back in 2016 when his Cleveland Cavaliers came roaring back and won the NBA championship over the record-setting Golden State Warriors that season. So this is not his first time in that boat. He knows what to do.
And you're going back home now. Get to play in LA.
You do. And I'm picking them to win Game 6. I'm picking this to go 7 games. Ty Lue is a phenomenal playoff coach. I'm sorry, Doc Rivers, but that was absolutely the right call by Steve Ballmer in that Clippers organization of letting go Rivers, because you and I have touched on it before. He struggles in the playoffs. It's unfortunate, but it's true. Facts are facts. Bring in a great playoff coach in Ty Lue. He's gotten them to their first ever Western Conference Finals. He's gotten them back in a series again. But we also can't forget about the players that stepped up last night. Paul George, a huge 41-point game, 13 rebounds, 15 of 20 from the field.
Yeah, like I said,
that's what needs to happen if LA is going to win this series. But it hasn't just been him.
Yeah, but that continues a great postseason for him. He's doing some great stuff.
But Paul George, incredible night last night, and he's playoff P again, folks. Forget this pandemic P mess. He's playing great, and I love it. I know you basketball fans out there love it as well. Paul George has been incredible in these playoffs. Outstanding game from him last night, which is exactly what LA needed to keep this series alive for them. This series is now 3-2, still Phoenix, but it's going back to LA, as you just stated. And if LA plays like they did last night, Chris, in Game 6, this thing is going 7, and I do believe it is going to happen.
Well, and they also had solid performance from Reggie Jackson, and
Jackson's been incredible.
Marcus Morris. So, yeah,
I did not see this coming from Jackson. I figured that Rondo was going to be the primary guard. I'm not sure if he has a injury that's been lingering him. It really hasn't been touched on or reported of any sort. But obviously, Ty Lue knew what he was doing with rolling Reggie Jackson out in the point guard spot, and he has done nothing but impress and show out. So that's been another great move by Ty Lue. Marcus Morris has been hobbled up by a knee issue. He plays outstanding last night. How about Big Boogie DeMarcus Cousins? We all forget about him. He stepped in for the injured Zubats.
Came off the bench.
Because Zubats did not play in last night's game with that injury. And DeMarcus Cousins was a big-time contributor for the Clippers last night in Zubats' absence.
He had 15 points. So they just played great as a unit. And like you said, I feel good about them winning at home. And then Game 7, anything can happen.
That's going to be, oh, my gosh.
Yeah, the Suns.
I can't wait
the Suns
for
will
a
need
Game 7
more
in that
from,
series.
I mean, Booker had a good game with 31 points, but they'll need more from Chris Paul.
Yeah.
They just didn't have as good of a night.
And it's crazy how good they were offensively without Chris Paul in those first 2 games.
Yeah.
And he comes back, and they're just not clicking like they were.
Well, we talked about that last time. We were worried how they might click. But
and he's still getting his legs from under him in this series.
And let me say this. The Suns had a decent game. It's just the Clippers, they shot 54.8%.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to win a game against somebody who's shooting that hot.
That's true.
So
that's very true.
I mean, the Clippers may just be starting to roll again to close out this series, and if they do, feel so good for their chances.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, because they've already proven it twice in this postseason where they fell behind 0-2. So why not fall behind 3-1 and then Ty Lue pulls a rabbit out of his hat like he did in that Cleveland Golden State NBA Finals in 2016 and overcome another 3-1 deficit. But Ty Lue coaching his butt off right now.
Yeah.
And pushing all the right buttons. But guys are stepping up for that Clippers team with injuries just hovering around that team right now, and Zubats, Morris. I'm not sure about Rondo. I haven't seen him much in this series, but I'm not sure if that's a decision by Ty Lue or if there is some lingering issue going on with Rondo.
A forced decision.
And, of course, we all know that Kawhi is still out. He has yet to step on the floor in this series. But you have to figure that now they're really starting to look at Kawhi like, man, could we get you back for Game 6 quite possibly? But you also, as we've touched on, you don't want to mess up the offensive chemistry that's happening with the Clippers right now. As you just stated, they had a great night shooting last night.
That was incredible, and I feel good about them getting to 7, like you said.
I do too. I do too. Clippers looked really focused and determined last night. I mean, right out of the gate, they punched Phoenix in the mouth. And then every time Phoenix came roaring back, LA had an answer every single time. Pulling the not so fast, my friend. But every single time LA had an answer, and they did what they needed to do to close out Game 5, to go back to LA with a chance to even up the series, bring it to Game 7, winner take all Game 7.
Yep. Well, and to close out basketball real quick, we got some news from the Trailblazers.
Yes, we do. Chauncey Billups, the former Detroit Piston all-star player who won the NBA championship with the Detroit Pistons in 2004 over the Los Angeles Lakers, has now been hired as the next head basketball coach of the Portland Trailblazers. So congratulations to Chauncey Billups. I'm sure he'll do a fine job in Portland. Question now is, can you get Damian Lillard happy enough, get him satisfied enough to where you can coach him and that great tandem of him and CJ McCollum to where you coach them up and you hope that you can persuade your front office into adding some more pieces to help build you a championship team, which really is what this team is lacking, is just a few more pieces. And I believe they're a title contender. But obviously Damian Lillard is not happy with the management right now of the Trailblazers. So hopefully Chauncey Billups can really have a sit-down meeting with Lillard, can convince him to not want to pursue the Trailblazers of trading him, but to keep him there in Portland, and they can really, to where they could really build something special. But I think that's a great hire for Portland. I thought it was time for them to move on from Terry Stotts because they just couldn't seem to get over hurdles in the playoffs under him. And obviously you see what's going on with Ty Lue in LA Clipperland, how he's such a great playoff coach, and he's proven it time and time again, where you figured, hey, if I go out and just get me a new coach, change up the culture a little bit, let Chauncey Billups come in and do what he wants to do, what he feels is going to be in the best interest of our team, our organization, then who knows? We might very well see Portland climb over these playoff hurdles that they haven't been accustomed to doing. But obviously, I love the move by Portland. I think it was the right hire. I just hope that they're able to convince Damian Lillard to stay in Portland and to help potentially build something special like what Phoenix is doing right now with their franchise, what Milwaukee is doing with their franchise. So great hire by the Portland Trailblazers, and congratulations to Coach Chauncey Billups.
Yeah, we'll see what they do moving forward.
So, Chris, you just touched on something that really has me intrigued going forward with the podcast here. Tell us what was so exciting about racing this weekend. What happened in racing?
Well, to put it short, we had the doubleheader in Pocono, which a lot of fans kind of dread because it's known for not having the most exciting races. But first, before I get to that, let me touch on something that was expected. Max Verstappen finished first in the Formula One race, and Mercedes rounded out second and third, with Lewis Hamilton second. So we're used to that. That wasn't particularly exciting. But yeah, Pocono, doubleheader, first race on Saturday. It looked like we were about to have a repeat. Kyle Larson was in first at the end of the race.
Not a shocker.
Right. And he took that lead with it was a handful of laps to go. I think it was about 4 or 5 laps to go. But anyway, he was pulling away. It was his race to win. And in the last corner, he cuts a tire and hits the wall. Still finishes 9th, but that gave the win to his Hendrick teammate, Alex Bowman. So Hendrick still won, but it was a well of a finish. It's always surprising when you see that car, the leader or whoever, cut a tire in the last turn.
Yeah.
All that crappy luck. But you know what? Kyle
obviously,
Larson,
you want your teammate
to
win it if you can't. Kind of like Ricky Bobby and Cal Naughton Jr. But shake and bake. Hey, if you don't win it, I want you to, good buddy.
But that ends that streak of average finish of 1.5 and 3 wins in a row and all that for Kyle Larson. Still came on top 10, but so that
he still has been incredible.
Oh yeah,
he knows how to win.
Still having an incredible year. But then we move into Sunday, where wondering if we can have another good race, and it turned out we did. Stage 1 was okay. Stage 2, things got more interesting. But then in the end, we got a fuel mileage race where a good dozen cars or so were saving fuel for the last segment. They had just barely enough to finish the race. Some of them ran out at the very end. There were like 3 strategies going at once. Some people pitted a little bit later than those and were able to push harder. Some ran as far as they could to push really hard at the end. So we just had several strategies going on at once, and they were all merging there at the end. But Kyle Busch, who was having transmission issues, was stuck in 4th gear, won the race. He won on Sunday in that M&M's car, the Candyman.
The Candyman can, and he did.
Yeah, he with only 4th gear. So that was impressive, and again, it was fun just to see. We haven't seen a fuel mileage race in a while, but we did on Sunday, and who knows when we'll see another one again with the stage racing. Sort of affects the strategy a bit. But yeah, it ended up being a fun weekend. Alex Bowman, Kyle Busch winning races. Also, the point situation is kind of funny. Even though Kyle Larson still had a decent weekend, Denny Hamlin still leads the points with no wins. He's barely holding on to that point lead, but Kyle Larson's still coming quick.
That's amazing how that happens, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't even win a single race, but yet I hold the cup lead.
Yeah, so this weekend we're going to Road America, which has me super excited. Another road course, should be fun. Interested to see how my guy Daniel Suarez can do there.
Yeah, he was looking pretty good in that race Sunday, Chris. At a time there.
Yeah, well, he was in.
And I thought about you too.
Oh, well,
while that was going on. I was like, well, there's Chris's boy Suarez. He's in that top 10.
Yeah, he got up there purely. He was one of those guys with fuel, saving fuel in the last run.
Okay.
That's how he didn't have a great car. That's how he got up there.
Wow.
And he actually ran out of fuel on the front stretch coming to the checkered flag. Still finished 15th, though. So he just lost like 3 or 4 positions, I believe. But still came on 15th, so I'll take that.
he was fighting hard there for a while, staying in that top 10.
Yeah.
For a top 10 finish, at least.
I was hoping he'd sneak one out, but he didn't. Oh!
I thought he was going to, but unfortunately.
Quick shout-out, 2311. Got their first top 10 and first top 5 finish of their existence with Bubba Wallace. So that's also cool to see. I heard Michael Jordan gave him a call after the race and congratulated. So hopefully they can.
I just thought about that too, Chris. I'm glad you brought up the GOAT.
Yeah. So yeah. Hopefully they.
As soon as you said Bubba Wallace, I thought Michael Jordan.
Yeah. So hopefully that team, Denny Hamlin, Michael Jordan, hopefully that team can keep picking up.
Right, I'm really excited about that team too going forward. I'm glad that Michael Jordan is really getting involved into NASCAR, and Alvin Kamara of the New Orleans Saints.
Oh yeah, him too. Yeah, he's
you're starting to see other big time former or pro athletes now really getting into NASCAR. It's pretty great to see.
It kind of reminds me of the 90s and early 2000s when that was happening. One reason I think it's happening now, we have a new car coming next year, which we can get into another time. It's really that's a whole long topic. But there's a new car coming that's supposed to be cheaper and provide more competitive racing.
Okay.
For smaller teams to be able to compete better with bigger teams, and I think that's one reason we're seeing more interest from people like Jordan. And Kamara's not owning a team, but he's working with fan relations and that type of stuff. So I think
he's really invested though, and you love to see that.
He's been great for the sport. But yeah, that I'm excited for all these new teams coming in NASCAR. 2311 Trackhouse has really overperformed. They're in 18th right now in points with Suarez. They're right near the cut line for the playoffs. We'll see if they can keep getting better to maybe sneak in there. 2311, they have a shot if they really get hot here. Chris Buescher is right there at the cutoff line. Kurt Busch is on the good side, but he could fall out. So we're closing into the playoffs. We've got, I think, 7 races or so left. We'll see what happens as the summer closes out. But hey, before we move on and do the random sports page of the day, you got any quick shout-outs you want to throw out there?
I do, Chris. I'd like to shout out my former driver's ed teacher at Tupelo High School.
Oh, yeah, mine too.
He was also coaching as the defensive coordinator on Tupelo High School's football team when we did go to when you and I went to Tupelo High School, Chris. But I'd like to shout out Coach Lamar Aldridge. The Ripley High School football program has just hired him to coach their defensive backs. Coach Aldridge was most recently at McNary Central High School, where he coached defense and served as their interim coach. It's also reported here that the Ripley Tigers are bringing back a young nucleus and one of the most experienced coaching staffs in the state of Mississippi. So what better than to bring in another long-time and great coach and Coach Aldridge to your program, who is a great defensive mind. He's going to really tutor and get those young DBs to believe in themselves, believe in their worth ethic, and just really teach them how to play the position at a great level.
Well, and beyond that, I think also just teach them how to be a great person, because
that too. Because we all know the kind of person that Coach Aldridge is. He's a great man.
Yeah, he was always so good to everyone I knew, at least, and
yes.
to me.
Oh yes. I absolutely loved having him as my driving instructor and driver's ed. It's kind of surreal talking about driver's ed right now, because it's been 10 years. I mean, heck, you and I, we had our high school reunion 2 weekends ago.
Oh yeah.
But I'm so happy that Coach Aldridge is still in the profession of teaching young men how to play football and really how to become great young men. I believe he's going to do a great job at Ripley. Kudos to the Ripley coaching staff for bringing him in and for him to help work on that side of the ball that he is so good at coaching at. Because really, when you and I were in high school, Chris, we always had a good defense because of Coach Aldridge and his schemes and his strategy. But now he's taking his vast knowledge to the Ripley Tiger football program, which I'm sure that they're going to have a great season this upcoming football year. And so I'll definitely be looking for Ripley this upcoming high school football season and keeping up with them a lot more with the news of them hiring Coach Aldridge yesterday. And so I look forward to seeing what that program is going to do this fall. And once again, just congratulations to Coach Lamar Aldridge. And we wish you all the best, Coach.
Yeah, congrats and wish you the best.
Go get 'em, man. I'd also like to do a quick shout out, and it's also unfortunate too at the same time. I hate to kind of put the two intertwined like this, but I came across a game that really was one of my favorite games, even though I did not watch it that day.
Yeah, you were having to call me for updates.
I did. I remember calling you because I was at a marching band competition, and we were on break at the time, and someone had told me that the game was closer than anyone had anticipated.
Well, and we're talking about, let them know what game. We're talking about the 2008 Ole Miss Florida game.
That's right. So I start hearing rumblings about how Ole Miss is in this tight-knit game with the number 4 team in the country at Florida Field, which is known as the Swamp.
And they had Tim Tebow at QB.
The reigning, defending Heisman Trophy winner from the previous season,
right?
Which came into Oxford and beat Ole Miss, but not by much, only by 6 points.
We always
in
give
that ball game.
Florida fits.
Yes, yes, we do. But so I'm starting to hear some rumblings about, hey, Ole Miss is in this ball game. I didn't believe it for one bit, but I know who did believe it, and that was you, Chris.
Oh yeah, I was so nervous watching that game.
I had to call you immediately to see what in the wide world of sports was going on, and you're sitting here telling me that, oh yeah, they're tied.
Yeah.
And so, of course, my band buddies are trying to hang out with me and talk to me. I'm like, y'all, I'm going, y'all leave me alone, man. I'm trying to talk to my good friend here about what's going on in this game.
This is right before, we all had smartphones with apps that could immediately see the score. That's why he's calling me. It's right before this.
Yeah, exactly, because you can't, at that time, couldn't just pull up your phone and go to ESPN scores or Bleacher Report scores or Twitter.
Or just watch the game live at the time. You can even do that now.
Right. Yeah, on your phone, that is. And, or tablet or whatever instance like that. But, of course, I'm not able to watch the game. I'm at a band competition and we're on a break. And I remember calling you. You're like, they're tied. So I think if I remember correctly, Chris, because I always changed into my uniform on the bus. I remembered going back on the bus. I'm still on the phone with you. You're still keeping me updated with what's going on. And so it just incredible finish to that ball game. Ole Miss was down 17-7 at half. They score 2 touchdowns, tie up the ball game. I remember that going back and looking at it later that evening, that Jevin Sneed huge bomb to Shea Hodge.
Yeah, and that's really who this shout out is for.
Yes, Jevin Sneed, that is, that gave them the lead. Florida then puts a good drive of their own, goes down the field, scores a TD.
And then the surprise of the day.
And I remember you and I are still on the phone here, and you're like, okay, they're going for the PAT to tie it up at 31. And I just remember you yelling, oh my goodness, they just blocked the extra point.
Is the best time to do it.
As Kentrell Lockett hurdles a blocker, extends his long arm up, and gets a hand on the football to keep the score 31-30 in Ole Miss's favor. Now they go 3 and out, give the ball back to Florida. Florida is really starting to drive down the field. I believe it was a 3rd and long, and they did a screen. Yeah, they did a screen pass to the running back, and he just about picks up the first down. But it's short. Now, at first, they gave Florida a pretty good spot, which if they would have kept that spot, then Tebow definitely would have gotten the first down.
He just had to lean over, basically.
The referees went back and viewed it, thank the good Lord that they did, and ended up getting the spot right on the field, which was pretty good 4th and 1 or 4th and 2. So I remember you telling me that, and I'm thinking, okay, yeah, they're going to kick a field goal and win it, aren't they? And you're like, no, man, they're going for it here. They're going to do that Tim Tebow quarterback draw. And I didn't understand that because instead of lining up under center, he's lined up in the shotgun formation for a draw play.
Pushing your back even further.
Right. And looking back on that play, the edge rusher was totally untouched, which is something that I don't understand to this day of how Dan Mullen at the time was Florida's offensive coordinator, how he didn't pick that up or get someone to get in the position to pick him up. But Marcus Temple is untouched on the edge, and he's able to get to Tebow immediately and stop him behind the line. And that's when you told me that they just stopped Tebow. They just stopped Tebow on 4th down, and I'm like, oh my goodness, they just won the ball game. So Ole Miss goes on to upset the number 4 ranked Florida Gators at that time with a 31-30 huge upset victory that ended up really catapulting that team the rest of the season. The team really just started to believe in each other, engage with each other, and really just started to play really good football. But the guy I'm wanting to shout out here, Chris, is former Ole Miss quarterback Jevin Sneed, who unfortunately we lost a couple of years ago. It was reported that he, and when I mean we lost him, that means that Jevin Sneed unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. But it was reported that when they examined his body after he passed away, he suffered from CTE.
Yeah.
And the thing that comes to mind when I first saw that report was that awful hit he took in that second Cotton Bowl game against Oklahoma State, where it knocked him out in just the first quarter.
Yeah.
He didn't play the rest of the game, and unfortunately he lived with a lot of the effects of that for the remainder of his young life.
And who knows what other hits he took in high school or wherever, just, the compounding of those hits. But yeah, that was one of the harder ones. But man, there was a while there, I mean, we thought he might be a top first round draft pick. He was on the front of Sports Illustrated, and
yeah, we definitely thought that he was going to be a Heisman candidate for sure,
because that
coming
team,
back from that really good 2018.
Yeah, when Nutt was coach, and it looked like Ole Miss was about to be, a top 5 team, or possibly for that year, at least top 10.
And ironically enough, they got to number 4.
Yeah,
a year later, with all those high expectations coming in, they're number 4 in the country. They go to South Carolina.
I remember that game.
That old ball coach and Steve Spurrier, back when he was coaching the Gamecocks, but they upset Ole Miss that night. But how ironic that Ole Miss was number 4 in the country.
Oh yeah,
when they got upset.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then thinking about just a year before, they were the ones that upset number 4 Florida. But of course, every time you think of that game, you think of the Tim Tebow post game interview.
Oh yeah, the meme.
The promise.
Yeah, it's kind of a meme
as it's called, where he promised that Florida would do everything in its power for him to pick up the team, for this team to come together, rally around each other. And that's one of those times where a guy said it and he backed it up. And they ended up winning the national title that season.
Yeah, that obviously means they need to give us a piece of that title, right?
Well, Houston Nutt certainly thought so.
Yeah.
He said, I just love the fact that we upset Florida and they ended up winning the national title.
Yeah,
but
we gave them the power
motivation.
To do it. No,
the motivation to not lose again, and they didn't lose again.
No, yeah, that's folks. All on Florida and Tim Tebow and that team for.
But that's my shout out because I just came across that game. It was on a SEC Rewind on the SEC Network. I believe it was. Yeah, Saturday afternoon because, of course, the NC State Vanderbilt game is canceled like we touched on due to COVID. I had nothing else to look forward to until that night with Mississippi State and Texas in the NBA playoff game. And that game just came across. I said, I've got to watch this. So I really wanted to shout out Jevin Sneed and that 2008 Ole Miss football team for that game because that was their coming out party game for sure. That's when the whole season changed in a season as they called one heartbeat.
Yeah.
Well, and that was the motto of that 2008 Ole Miss football team.
And definitely one of somewhere in my top 10 favorite Ole Miss memories.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I will never forget that game. I'll never forget talking to you on the phone at a high school band competition, and just the jubilation. Even though I'm not in front of the TV watching it, but just calling you picking up the phone and letting me know what was going on. I truly appreciated you for that, Chris, and. Now I'm so blessed and fortunate to do a sports podcast with you, brother. But who would have thought, man, in 2008 we'd be having a phone conversation about a game that I can't even watch at the moment. Discussing sports in that manner to now 2021 and we're co-hosting a sports podcast. How about that?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
But
yeah, it's a interesting turnaround. That's cool.
But yeah, for sure. But obviously, once again, I wanted to shout out Jevin Sneed and that 2008 football team. Jevin Sneed, you gave us a game for the ages, my brother, and we just can't thank you enough as Ole Miss fans. You were etched into the history of Ole Miss football. You're etched into every single one of the member of the Ole Miss family, the hearts of all of us Ole Miss fans. We certainly do miss you, man. We thank you for all the great memories and plays and games that you were a part of while you were at Ole Miss, and we certainly think about and pray for Jevin Sneed's family. But we just thank you for the memories, Jevin. And I just wanted to shout out him and that 2008 Ole Miss football team.
Yeah, it was a good thing to mention. Rest in peace, Jevin Sneed.
Rest in peace, my brother.
All right, well, real quick before we go, I want to do my random page of the day. Today, it took me somewhere I really like, well, for the most part. I went to Baseball Reference, and random page was the 1926 New York Yankees schedule.
Man.
So way back in, and at this time, The Yankees only had one World Series victory from 1923, so it's a different time and place.
Mm-hmm.
And I say I'm mostly happy about this because, I mean, it was a great year for the Yankees. They went 91, 63-1. They finished first in the American League, went to the World Series, and lost a 7-game series to the Cardinals.
Ugh.
Yeah, so a bad ending to a great year. But, of course, the following year, 27 Yankees heralded as one of the best teams of all time, if not the best. Depends on who you talk to.
Oh my goodness. My 2016 Chicago Cubs, there were a lot of comparisons to that 1927 New York Yankee squad. How they were the best team from start to finish. They
felt like their
proved
year
it all season long. Yeah. That's why there were so much comparison between the two.
And yeah, it's just some years you have those teams where it's just obvious who the favorite is going into the World Series.
And of course, we just wanted to elaborate on that because this is about the 26 Yankees, not the 27 Yankees. But you do like to kind of go forward a year or so and see how they really progress.
Well, yeah, because this is just before the Yankees were on a tear and won
all
those World Series in such a short time.
And it was definitely history because a part of their history, no question about it. But for them to overcome losing the World Series to the Cardinals in 26, to just, as you just stated, going on that incredible run where they win, 27 World Series championships?
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes that's what it takes. It takes getting your heart broken on the biggest stage, being whether it was a few outs away or just a game, just a whole entire game in general, where you get your heart broken, but you're able to say, hey, look, we know what it's going to take now. And boy, did they turn that heartbreak into a historic championship franchise and run of what we know today as the New York Yankees.
Yeah, and it's 27. They're chasing 28 now.
I thought it was 27.
Yeah. Now, some of the Hall of Famers on that team, Earl Combs, Wade Hoyt, Tony Lazzari, Herb Pinnock, and, of course, Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth.
Man, what a tandem.
Yeah. But this is just before a lot of those other guys came in who are even more prestigious Hall of Famers. I can't think of another
Yogi
way to say
Berra.
it. Yeah.
Mickey Mantle.
Right, exactly. Well, and Joe DiMaggio, all those people. So, yeah, I mean, a great team that just got beat out by the Cardinals in the World Series, but was soon to go on to do great things.
Is Yogi Berra still alive?
No.
Okay.
No, he's not.
I somewhat thought he had passed, but I wasn't too sure on it. But man, how could you not love Yogi Berra?
I love all of his sayings that he has.
My gosh,
the crazy.
What an incredible baseball player, baseball mind. I believe he was a coach at some point after his playing career was over with. But yeah, how could you not love Yogi Berra?
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, something interesting here. Of course, the top highest paid player on the team was Babe Ruth. And his salary was $52,000 for the year. I'm pulling up an inflation calculator to see how much that would be today real quick.
It's still hard to believe, even to this day here in 2021, that the Red Sox sold Babe Ruth to the Yankees.
Yeah.
And how the two...
Wasn't even a trade.
Yeah, just sold him for money. And how that move alone, changed the course of those two franchises.
Yeah. That salary...
And the Red Sox would have to get over the hump by beating their arch rival, the New York Yankees.
Don't remind me of that.
To get back to the World Series and win it.
Yeah, don't remind me of that year. But yeah,
but you knew everybody knew in the back of their minds that's what it was gonna take. It was going to take the Red Sox finally beating the Yankees where it matters, and they did it.
Oh, they did. But all right, that salary in 1926 would be $790,000 today. So I mean, that's not bad.
Okay.
That ain't bad for 1926. Now,
Okay.
Lou Gehrig's salary was only $6,500, and that would be about just under $100,000 today.
Wow.
But
gosh,
that was pretty early in his career. I think he was on the 23 team. I think he was a rookie that year.
But yeah, that was a lot of money though back in the day.
Oh yeah, but they were doing good for themselves.
Heck, it's a lot of money to me. 6,000's a lot to me, man.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
especially after the jobs that I've worked in my life.
I won't complain. Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was fun. 1926 New York Yankees just about to start
historical run that we will never see happen again.
Oh no, not in modern baseball.
Because the times have changed, and so have the sports. So just dominance by the New York Yankees after that heartbreaking end to their season where they lose the World Series to the Cardinals.
All right, well that does it for us. That's all we got to talk about today. Closing out, well, I guess we'll talk about what we're gonna look forward to. What you got?
I'm looking to see if Trae Young is going to play tonight for the Atlanta Hawks. If he does play, how healthy is he going to be? Can the rest of this Atlanta Hawks team step up with him not being 100% and doing whatever it takes to win a must-win game tonight?
Yeah, I'll be watching that as well. But I guess my top thing will probably be that Game 2 between Vandy and Mississippi State. See if Vandy can close out the series or Mississippi State can push it to that third winner-take-all game.
It should be a better game tonight between.
You'd think so.
Both squads.
Because we expected a close one coming into this.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, you can follow me on Twitter at Christopheles11, Chris Top Holes 11. That's me on Twitter. Our show page is Sport Fanatics on Twitter.
Yeah, guys, please don't forget to follow us on Twitter for scoring finishes.
Yeah.
And also updates and links to the podcast. But yeah, please do not forget to follow us on Twitter, guys.
Yeah, and you're J Mike Check, right?
Yes, both my Twitter and Instagram handle is at J_Mike Check. No spacing between Mike and Check. It's at J_Mike Check. And feel free to add me as a friend on Facebook. You guys know I love to talk sports. It's my passion. But once again, I'm not one of these people that's not going to follow you back or just totally ignore you. Please feel free to follow me, add me. I will follow you back. I will accept the request, and yeah, if you ever want to talk sports with me, just hit me up. I'd love to chat. So
all right, yeah, it sounds good. And until next week or until next time on Friday.
Yeah, Friday. Yep.
Yeah, this Friday.
Yep.
We'll find out, see where these series go and who won the College World Series. But until then, y'all have a good week.
Take care, you guys.
Bye-bye.